Hey guys, hope you're doing well. Welcome back to another episode of Real Estate Technical Tuesdays. Every week I come to you via live stream. We talk about strategies, tactics, and insider information on how you can take your property investing, trading, whatever you're doing in property, your journey to the next level, basically from the ground up. So today's topic that I'm going to teach you guys on a little bit is how to buy real estate with no money down. Now, I get the question all the time, Nathan, I want to buy more real estate, I want to grow my portfolio, I want to expand, I want to develop property, I want to do this, I want to create cash flow. The biggest factor is, the limiting factor is always the deposit. Good serviceability, I earn great income. The factor is I just can't put together the deposits in time to be able to buy the deals. So, I always hear about, buying real estate, no money down, all these type of strategies and all these tactics. How do I actually do it? That's the question. So today I'm going to give you two different strategies that you can use that work effectively well, okay? Obviously there's a little bit of time in sourcing these types of deals, but they're all out there in the marketplace. People who tell you that they're not simply just don't know what they're talking about. There is deals out there in the marketplace like this right here, right now. You just got to think a little bit outside the box, okay? The biggest factor with this is going to be, people are going to say, oh, why would the vendor do that? Why would the vendor give me a discount? Why would the vendor do this? You need to get outside of your own mind and you need to think in the logical state of the vendor. Most of these vendors are in a position where they need to do something, okay? They don't want to deal with real estate agents. They don't want to put it on the market. They don't want to go through the marketing campaign. Normally, in some of these cases, which I'm going to touch on in a minute, the banks are knocking on the doors and saying, hey, unless you do something, we're going to foreclose on the property and you're going to go bankrupt. So, you need to think outside the box a little bit with these. You need to think in the vendor's position, not in your position, because your position might be completely different. You might say, I would never do that for someone, but when push comes to shove, and if something's happening where the banks are knocking on your doors, people start to think a bit more rationally on what they can do, what their options are. So with that being said, let's get straight into it, okay? The first strategy, which I'm not sure how many people have learnt on before, is vendor finance, okay? You've probably heard the term. What is vendor finance though? Okay, vendor finance is simply, with the deposit, the vendor is going to put those funds into the deal instead of you getting 100% of the funds. So typically how this type of deal would work is you would go to someone either like myself or another real estate agent or a buyer's agent, or you might even go to the vendor direct and you might say to them, hey look, I really want to buy your property. The only factor is I don't have the 20% to put down. I've got good serviceability. The banks love me. The banks say no worries, but I don't have the 20% to put down. So what do you do in that situation? You might say to them, hey, I'll give you 80% today. You tip in the 20% and I'll give you that 20% over the next 5-year period, 10-year period, whatever you sort of negotiate. It might even be, if you're going to develop the property or renovate the property and to sell it, you might say, hey, when I exit the project, I will pay you that 20% that I owe you, and I'll also pay you interest on that money. So it's like your money's working. Now you might be thinking, well, why will the vendor do that? What security does the vendor have, etc.? The vendor, you would explain to the vendor that they would go put a caveat on the property for their 20%, which means that you could never sell that property unless the vendor releases that caveat. Okay? So that's strategy one. Now, there is deals like this all out in the marketplace. We're coming across deals all day, every day for our clients like this. Vendors that are in positions where, they've lived there for many years, they're not in dire straits for the money or whatnot. They really want a premium. The market's not willing to pay that premium right now. So they're like, we either sit on it or we offload and get 80% out now, and then we keep 20% of the property and we give it to the next purchaser, and then we can see that 20% realized in the future. So that's option one, okay? And there is tons of these deals out there. You'd be very, very surprised. Now, you might pay a premium for these deals, but there's something that you want to realize in the market. Time is always worth more than money. If you can have 5 years, 10 years in the market without having to pay those funds, based on historical data, how the property prices have gone in Australia over the last 10 years, you're going to do significantly better than if you were to pay all that up front, then pay the interest on it, pay the loans, pay the repayments. The factor is though, in most cases, many people just can't put the deposits together to get into a deal like that. So this is a very good situation, it's a very good strategy, and it works tremendously well. Okay, you just need to know where to source the deals, you need to know how to find the vendors, how to find the deals. There's a few ways to go about it. You can come to someone like me and say, hey Nathan, look, this is what I'm willing to do. I want to develop a property, I want to do a project, or I want to do a renovation, I want to do this. I got 20 grand deposit, I got 10 grand deposit, I got 30 grand deposit, whatever it is. Then we can go out and source those deals for you, bring them to the table, negotiate with the vendors on how it's going to go, how we're going to structure the deal for you, and then everyone comes to an even agreement, everyone shakes hands, and the deal goes forward. Second option is you can work with a real estate agent like myself as well. That's out there every Saturday, Sunday, weekdays, you know, dealing with buyers, dealing with vendors, got inside information on what's selling, what's not selling, what will sell for the right price. You know, there's tons of these properties that will never go on the market, but I know a ton of vendors that they would sell if I bring them an offer for the right price. So that's another way. Third way is simply you just source these vendors yourself. Put your ears to the ground, get out there on the weekends, knock on doors, send letters, speak to vendors, you know, put signs up that you're looking to buy properties, you know, cash buyers, stuff like that, and generate your own business that way. Another great strategy, which is, I think, the probably most underutilized strategy right now, is using Facebook advertising to locate these vendors. You can target very, very specific niches, exactly who you're looking to target with this type of space. So that's one way to source your own deals. Or you can go to someone like myself or another agent, and they can source these deals for you, package them up, bring them to you, and see if it's a viable option. If it is, try and make the deal work for all parties, the vendor and the buyer. The second strategy, which I want to talk about, so that was vendor finance, okay? It works tremendously well, very, very well. The second strategy is distressed properties. So this one utilizes a bit more of the banks rather than the vendor, okay? So distressed properties. So what that normally means is the vendor's in a position where the banks issue notices to repossess the property, they've issued notice to foreclose, okay? And basically when the bank comes into foreclose, they're just gonna fire sell it at whatever someone's willing to give it to them. So let's say the debt on the property is 250 grand, just give or take, okay? But the property value in today's current market is, let's say 350 grand, okay? Now you might be thinking, well, if it's worth 350 grand, why don't they just sell with an agent, put it on the market and whatnot? You've got to understand when these people are in these type of situations where they're distressed, okay? They stop opening their mail, they get overwhelmed with the process. They've probably never experienced something like this before. The bank's issuing all these notices, or lawyers are after them, lawyers are speaking to them. So the easiest scenario for them to do is just bury their head in the sand and not think about it, okay? And hopefully it all goes away, but it doesn't go away. It gets worse and worse, okay? So what happens is the bank says to them, hey, look, you got 14 days, 30 days to pay your loans in arrears. Otherwise, we're changing the locks on the property and we're foreclosing. We're going to fire sell it, okay? So what that means is basically in that period of time, unless the vendor comes up with the arrears and the interest and the default interest rates, which is normally a tremendous amount, the bank's going to change the locks, the sheriff's going to come in, they're going to foreclose on the property. So how do you pick up these properties? By helping the vendor, but also financing 100% from the banks, okay? Here's the strategy. You approach these vendors and you say to them, hey, look, I know the situation, I'd love to help you. This is how I'd like to help, okay? I'm going to finance and pay out your existing loan. I'm also going to give you a premium, okay? I'm not going to give you the full market value of 350, okay? I'm going to buy it at a discount, and I'm going to give you a premium, okay? Because what would normally happen is if the bank forecloses on the property, that owner of the property basically is going to be out of all funds, okay? So let's say even the property sells for 350, what typically happens is the bank will say, okay, because we foreclosed on the property, there was all these legal fees, court fees, arrear fees, etc., right? Typically, the rest of the equity wrapped up in the property gets absorbed in fees, okay? And basically the bank takes it all. It's a criminal act, but it is basically what happens. It happens time and time again, okay? So, plus the vendor goes bankrupt, okay? So they're going to pass in their passport, they can't travel, they can't do this, and they're not going to be able to get a loan for at least 7 years, okay? Typically. So where do you come in this process? Okay, you source vendors that are in distressed situations. You know the banks are coming in. You know the banks are foreclosing. You say to them, hey, look, I'll buy out your property. I'll buy out the existing debt on the property. Okay, I'll also pay your premium for your property, so you have a little bit of funds left over that you and me agree upon. But the benefits of that is you won't go bankrupt, okay? You can get out of the property and you can live to fight another day. You go buy your next property, whatever the situation is, okay? Now, how do you get the finance for this? Okay, so typically in a typical situation, most people will go to the bank and say to the bank, hey, I want 80% of the property value, okay? In this case, when you're buying the property so below the market value, 80% is normally basically 100%, 100 to 110% of the property value. In some cases, I've seen clients do this with 110%. That other 10% is used for funds for renovation, subdivisions, just etc. fees, okay? Basically, what you do, you go back to the bank and you say to the bank, hey, look, I've got this property, I want you to value it, I want to purchase it. The bank comes out, they revalue it, let's say they revalue it at 330. You say, great, I only want to borrow 250. You do the numbers, it's probably 70%, 75% of the property value, okay? The bank will give you all those funds as the finance, okay? Whatever agreement you have with the vendor is completely on you, okay? As you can see, the bank is typically financing 100% of that property, okay? Does that make sense? They're basically financing 100% of that property, okay, because you have negotiated with the vendor directly on what price you and them are going to exchange at settlement. Okay, so that's strategy 2. This strategy is a little bit more complicated. You sort of need to know what you're doing, but it's a phenomenal strategy because you'd be very, very surprised how many properties are out there like this. Mortgagee sales, distressed properties, even not mortgagee, properties that are just going through this process of distressed sales. So it's a phenomenal strategy. It works exceptionally well. You get tremendous uplift from day one. You can use financial institutions, banks, lenders and stuff to almost finance 100%, sometimes even more than 100%, okay? And you get to, you know, whether that's a project, whether you're going to subdivide and develop, otherwise whether you're going to renovate and flip, or whether you're just simply going to buy it, use 100% finance from the banks and basically put a tenant in there and rent it out for positive cash flow. So it's a phenomenal strategy. And you'd be very, very surprised how many of these properties are out there right now on the market. So that is the 2 strategies I wanted to share with you guys today. So it's basically how to buy real estate with no money down. It is possible, despite what people tell you, it is possible. You just need to know how to structure these deals. You need to know what you're looking for. You need to work with the right team, work with the right people that understand these processes, understand what they're doing and how to help. And you need to have someone that can source these properties for you, okay? So that's basically how it is, guys. So what I've done is in the link in the description, there's a website there. It's called realestatewithnathan.com. Click on that link, go through the application form, okay? Basically, what we did was in the marketplace, we had a look at what was the problems in the marketplace, and we found that most of our buyers, you know, they were sick and tired of going to open inspections on the weekend, working with 30 different real estate agents. Real estate agents' ultimate job is to represent the vendor, get the maximum price. They were sick of the sales tactics, etc. And we said, what if you can come to us and say to us, Nathan, I'm looking for this type of property in this type of area, this type of price range. It's got to have these type of features. It's got to have this demographic. And you say it to us, and we go away and we source a bunch of those properties for you. We bring them to the table, and then we spend half a day taking you out and showing you all those properties. Then, once you decide which of the property is correct, we go and negotiate on your behalf. Okay, we negotiate on your behalf to get you a great price, get a great deal, and get a great outcome. And how we do that is basically, you know, by using our team of experts. You know, we've got in-house buyers, in-house sales agents, we've got finance department, we've got property development arm. So we use all these facets of our business to really bring a client in that's looking for a particular type of property, particular type of strategy, particular type of area and price range. We source the property, we take out all the open inspections on the weekends, working with agents, all the hard yards, all the hard work, and we basically just bring you 3 to 5 options on the particular type of property you're asking for. Then we take you out, we show you those properties, and then we help you make an educated decision on which one's best to move forward with. So if that's something you'd like to go down the path of, if you'd like to make the process so much easier, so much simpler, and not have to work with 30 different real estate agents, go to all these open inspections on the weekend, I recommend you go through that link. Just apply. We're opened it up to work with 10 new clients at the moment. Okay, we've been the last few months we had the doors shut because we had an overwhelming response to the clients we're working with, and our number one role and job is to provide the best service to our clients. So we've just recently opened the doors up again for a March intake of 10 clients, okay? So if that's something you'd like to explore further and find out further details, go to the link there, okay? realestatewithnathan.com. And that's basically Real Estate Technical Tuesdays today, guys. So if you find value, put something in the comments. If you want to know, if you've got a question that you want answered on next week's episode, send me a private message, just with your topic question, and I'll get that answered on next week's episode. So with that being said, guys, have a fantastic day, and to your real estate journey, have much success. Bye-bye.